can never be rehabilitated.
You must imprison this killer for the rest of his life.
A ninth grader who's in court for murdering his 24-year-old school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, on October 22, 2013. Colleen was known for her dedication to her students, and on that fateful day, she had asked Chisholm to stay after school for additional lessons. Little did she know that her kindness would lead to a horrific end. Chisholm came prepared with a knife, a change of clothes, and gloves. He followed her into a restroom where he took her life. His brutality didn't stop there. He robbed, assaulted, and abused her. Afterward, he disposed of her lifeless body by placing it in a garbage bin and dragging it behind the school. In a futile attempt to cover up his crimes, Chisholm went into town and used Ritzard's credit card to buy a movie ticket. However, he was traced down and arrested by the police the next morning. He still had Colleen's blood on his hands. While the magnitude of Chisholm's crimes is daunting, his courtroom behavior will leave you in disbelief. Philip Chisholm faced multiple charges, including murder, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. Throughout the court proceedings, Chisholm displayed a shocking lack of remorse, even as the victim's father read his statement.
The killer knew exactly what he was doing and has never shown remorse.
His demeanor and actions demonstrated a complete disregard for the gravity of his crimes and the immeasurable pain he had inflicted on Colleen Ritzer's family, even in the face of a touching tribute by Colleen's brother.
Put this animal behind bars for the maximum possible sentence. Do not give this coward the opportunity to shatter another family's lives.
Chisholm remained cold and unrepentant. His attorneys claimed that he was mentally unstable. That didn't work. In February 2016,
the court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years, the highest level our law allows.
However, while Chisholm's reaction could certainly be dismissed as an effect of a mental illness, the same can't be said for the case of 19-year-old Brandon Spencer, who allegedly started shooting at a crowded Halloween party on the campus of the University of Southern California in Los Angeles.
I'm sorry for what happened to your uncle, but he's life in prison.
4 individuals were injured in the shooting, but fortunately, there were no fatalities.
That if you are so intent on killing someone that you're willing to shoot them and at the same time open fire into a crowd.
Following the shooting, Spencer was detained by the Los Angeles Police Department for questioning. A couple of days later, he was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. The prosecution argued during the trial that the shooting was the result of an ongoing feud between Spencer and a rival gang member, noting that Spencer himself was a documented and well-known gang member.
I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
Despite the horrifying nature of Spencer's offenses, his actions during the trial managed to shock everyone present. Throughout the trial, Spencer maintained his innocence, but the jury disagreed. Spencer also pleaded his case. The judge sentenced Brandon Spencer to 40 years to life in prison for the 4 counts of attempted murder. When Spencer heard his sentence, this was his reaction. However, while Spencer's behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the explosive actions of 15-year-old Conrad Schaefer during their trial.
This was a 15-year-old who was out semi-automatic rifle shooting up.
Schaefer shocked Osceola County when he and his friends began randomly shooting at the residence, resulting in the tragic death of 17-year-old David Guerrero, who was on his way to work. Before the shootings, Schaefer had persuaded his father to purchase a .45 caliber Hi-Point carbine and 100 rounds of ammunition. He allegedly took the gun from his house while his father was asleep, marking the beginning of the neighborhood's nightmare. Conrad Schaefer and 3 of his friends, David Damas, Victoria Rios, and Juan Muriel, terrorized the community for 2 weeks. They even invaded 22-year-old Eric Rupnarin's home and fatally shot him. During his trial, Schaefer had this to say to the families of the victims.
15 at a time, I'm really sorry for the things I've done. And I know I did wrong, and I know my apology don't mean nothing to you. And I know it ain't gonna change how you feel about me.
Families of Eric Rupnarin also seem to agree.
Eric was my grandson. He was my helper to me and my wife. At this time, my family and I had no intention to forgive the guilty because of such a heinous and brutal crime that was done to my grandson, Eric Rupnarin.
Schaefer eventually pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, with over 22 incidents of gunfire damaging homes and vehicles. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, with the judge stating that if Schaefer had been just 3 years older, he would have received the death penalty. However, Conrad Schaefer isn't alone in their courtroom actions. Let's not forget the infamous incident involving 15-year-old Martise Fuller, who's facing charges including murder in Kenosha County, Wisconsin.
I stopped in my doorway, and I looked at him, and I said, "Oh my God, Martise." I said, "Please, you don't have to do this." And he looked at me, and he said, "Yes, I do."
Fuller broke into his ex-girlfriend's house with a handgun. He fatally shot his ex-girlfriend in her bedroom while she was listening to music. Her mother, who rushed to the scene upon hearing the gunshots, confronted the assailant and was shot twice, but survived. During the trial, he showed little emotion. Fuller pleaded not guilty, but the jury ultimately found him guilty on 3 counts.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
At his sentencing, Fuller, perhaps for the first time in the courtroom, displayed some emotion. However,